What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is the JR Wisdom channel. I appreciate you guys tuning in once again. This video is going to be sort of like my other ones, but then it's on a topic from a viewer of mine. Bear with me. I'm going to be freestyling this. It's not scripted or anything. I took some notes based off this, so I hope that this video helps this young lady out who reached out to me in reference to this. It's a little different because this is a Muslim sister from another country, and I'm going to try to address this as best as I can. So it's going to be kind of like the Reader's Digest of this, because the email that she sent me was kind of lengthy. So I'm going to try to break it down as quickly as possible, as not to take up too much of your time. But like I said, if you want to stay tuned in, hopefully this helps you out or it helps someone else out. So with that being said, I just wanted to give a disclaimer, first of all, in reference to this, that I am not an imam, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not a sheikh. I'm not anything like that. So when it comes to Islamic law and Islamic jurisprudence, or whatever you want to call it, I'm not the subject matter expert. I'm not a subject matter expert on life in itself, but I do have an opinion on certain things, and people do ask me. That's why a lot of you are on this channel, to hear what I have to say. So I appreciate this young lady coming to me with this. So without further ado, and I just wanted to also expound on that I am an American at the end of the day. As you already know, I wasn't raised in an Islamic household. This young lady happens to be Palestinian. Wasn't raised in a Palestinian household. So my structure, my opinion, my values, my culture are completely different from yours. So my opinion on this is going to be completely different. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. And like I said in the email, I have no problem giving you my opinion, sister. Just please keep in mind that only take what's good from what it is that I'm going to be saying. And we all know that Allah knows best, and He's the best of planners. So I'm going to just read, kind of like what she said before I get into her story. She says, this young lady, as a lot of people do when they have issues in relationships, they go to YouTube. Right. I'm not exempt from that in the past, and that's how I, came about doing this channel, is by learning these things as well. YouTube, reading, experiencing things like that. So she happened to come across my channel, due to confusion with her, trying to figure out what's going on, and she came across a few of my videos. And for those of you who have been watching my videos, and maybe you might not know, a lot of the advice that I do give you, or the videos that I do, they have a religious tone. But for those who really know and are versed in it, a lot of the tones of the advice that I give you is Islamic influenced, contains hadith and verses from the Quran. But I don't want to say that a lot of times, because it tends to turn people off. So that's neither here nor there. So that's how she came across my videos. So I'm just going to read this. So she says, I do believe the control that I have in my life is limited. However, I can't help but wonder whether I've currently doing the best in the situation I'm in. What if I've ruined my own destiny because I lied to my father, and I'm currently ruining it by not contacting this person? I wonder if where I currently am in life is where Allah wants me to be, and if it's best for me. You also said we can perceive whether the things that happen to us are good or bad until some time passes. Maybe me lying was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way of protecting me, so that the relationship didn't happen at that time, even though Allah has made lying haram. You also mentioned the difference between being persistent and being forceful. I'm not forcing anything, but I guess I'm persistently thinking about this relationship and whether I'm doing anything wrong. If I don't end up being with him, I am content with Allah's decree, and I completely trust him. I just want to know if I'm doing my best in this situation, not to disappoint my dad, not to give false hopes of us being together, but I also don't want to hurt him by not communicating with him. I guess right now what I mainly wish from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a sign that will show me if he's the one for me, and whether what I am going through is just a test and a bunch of obstacles that I have to get through, or a sign that will show me very clearly that it's time to close this chapter of my life and focus on myself and move on. I said that before I actually got into her situation, because I just want to preface all this. And like I said, this is going to be like a Reader's Digest. I'm all over the place, but I'm going to bring it, to full circle at the end here. So, as I said, this is a young lady who reached out to me. She's 23 years old. She's Palestinian, but she was attending school in the UK, right? And this was about a year ago. She was attending school. She met a guy named O. I'm going to call him O because I don't want to say his name. Who he had already graduated 2 years prior. He's 3 years older than her, so he's 26. She's 23. He's from Dubai, or Dubai, United Arab Emirates. For those of you who know, she's from Palestine. So they met online through Instagram, through a post, through I think the school page or something like that, and they started conversing for 3 months. He wanted to meet her through this conversing, and a lot of this may seem strange to folks who are not too familiar with Islamic tradition, and when it comes to dating and meeting those of the opposite sex, and I'll try to clear up based off my knowledge, some of these things. So they started conversing for 3 months. He basically, wanted to see her, and she agreed. Keep in mind, he had already attended this school, in the same school that she was at in the UK. So he applied for a visa and was approved. And he made his way over there. And throughout this, she mentions a lot about istikara, or however you want to pronounce it. You got istikara and you got istishara, which is basically you praying, and things appear to you in your dreams. Allah comes to you in your dreams and shows you a sign, things like that. So basically, he did a lot of that during Ramadan, and his visa was approved. He made it over there and visited with her. Stayed for a week. They saw each other every day, so on and so forth. They hit it off. It was time to go. He kept in contact. He left, went back to Dubai. They kept in contact, and she basically says that this guy was everything that she wanted in a man, everything on her personal checklist, which a lot of you guys should be having, as far as your personal checklist. That's part of manifestation as well. And he set the bar for any future suitor, or any type of relationship. And she said that, which is what a lot of people say, that she'd rather be alone than with anyone else. So he wanted to be with her as well. So she finished her degree and she moved back to Palestine. She prayed istikhara before telling her father, just to get a sign. So she had already told, which is what a lot of women tend to do, especially in Islamic families. They not to say that they're not really close with their fathers, but they'll bring stuff up to their mothers. So she already told her mother and sisters about this guy who was in Dubai at the time. So she wanted to make sure, the reason why she didn't tell her father, according to her, is she wanted to make sure that she liked him first before her father's influence came in. And that may have affected the whole situation. So they came up with a plan, her and this guy O, based off of Islamic. When it comes to dating Islamically, you're supposed to, as a man, you're supposed to go to the father first instead of directly to the daughter. If you're interested in dating her, i.e. dating basically means marrying her, or you're interviewing. There's an interview process, but you have to go through the father, or what's called a wali, right? Which is a guardian, because it's believed that men know what to look for in a man, That's why they interview the man to make sure he's the best for the daughter, the relative, whoever. It's usually a man in the family, but in this case, it's the father. So that was the proper way to do it. So based upon the way she did it and the way this guy, her and this guy, it wasn't done properly. They started dating before the father even knew about it. So that's why she's a little hesitant, as I'm going to read about this whole situation. So they came up, her and O came up with this plan, basically, that how did it go? Came up with a plan to contact the father and said that, basically O saw her at the university, even though they didn't attend the university at the same time. He saw her at the university and basically was like, let me get your father's number. I want to contact your father because I'm interested in dating you. Which is what he should have done from the jump, Islamically. So they devised this plan to do that. And the father, in turn, said her, instead of the number, he said, well, you guys need to I give you permission. You guys can text back and forth, message back and forth, and you guys can get to know each other. So they started messaging each other back and forth on Facebook, which was scripted, basically. And it was scripted, but they on Instagram they decided to talk normally. He didn't agree to to give the phone number, basically at this point, and that kind of bothered her. So his family, O's family, already knew everything. Everybody knew in her family except the father. So she feared that the stories would get mixed up. And she just completely stopped texting on Facebook altogether. So they just kept it on IG. So with all these mental games started playing, she started creating a narrative in her mind and anxiety kicking in and her being disowned maybe by her father not trusting her, all these things going through her mind, which is understandable. So she basically eventually just stopped talking to O because of this, and because she also felt that all this lying going on, that it may cause him to distrust her because she's doing all this lying, and especially further down the line if you were to get married to her. So basically she ends up ghosting him at this point, stops talking to him. And basically, he was just like, before she ghosted him, he said, hey, I'm down for whatever it is you're down for. You know what I mean? So she stopped messaging him, hasn't talked to him in the past 4 months. She's now in Canada looking for a job. And still afraid to ask or tell her father that she still wants to be with this guy. She thinks about him every day, prays for him every day, hoping that she gets some kind of sign out of the situation at this point. So I think it's interesting. I'm going to read a few. I'm going to try to briefly go through the signs that she was talking about that she feels makes it that it's supposed to happen or they're supposed to be together. She goes along saying basically like they haven't spoken in the past 4 months, but she's been constantly thinking about him. Says, I feel like Allah has shown me so many signs before even knowing existed. I have always made dua that, Allah, when that person comes, make me know in my heart that this is the person for me. Deep down in my heart, I feel like really is the one. I can't say I love him because I don't know him that much, but I feel the potential of our relationship succeeding would be largely based on what I know about him now. We have talked about these signs, and O has noticed them as well. The signs Allah gave me are the following. My older sister dreamt that him and I got married and that the process of getting married was very easy. In her dream, my dad said yes and agreed on the marriage as soon as I told him I wanted to marry O. My sister had this dream out of nowhere. I hadn't talked to her about him for a while. When O came to London, his hotel just happened to be 10 minutes away, walking from my accommodation. He never asked me where I live, and I just wonder what the chances are of that happening. Number 3, how easily and how we both equally really liked each other. 3 hours with him felt like 20 minutes. We literally would lose track of time. Even if we weren't talking, we just enjoyed each other's presence. Why we were so attached and teared up when we left, even though we only spent a week together. 4, when I told my dad about him, my dad took it well. I showed him O's picture and he said he seemed like a good person. Normally my dad is not like this and tends to mention someone's negatives before their positives. Probably thinks nobody's good enough for his little girl. Number 5, I'm not attracted to O for the wrong reasons. He may not be the most attractive person, but I like him because I see stability in him. And that's what I've touched on in the past. Women, when they see a man, they're looking to see it. Is he good for me? Is he stable? Is he good for me? Most of the times. My liking for him is not the toxic kind. I don't feel empty without him. I'm okay with this relationship not potentially not working out or waiting a long time until I could be with him, but I feel in my heart that we could be successful together. I like him because of his maturity. Now he speaks about his parents, his consistency, how caring he is, and how I learned so much about Islam and life from our talks. We understand each other perfectly. Our values and what we want out of life is so similar. We talked about how we would react when problems happen. We acknowledge that fights and arguments are bound to happen in our future, and when they do, we would always respect each other and remember to not let any argument get between our relationship. I love how he treats me. He even sent me surprise chocolates when I finished my dissertation. I know that he prays, although he did admit to me that he misses Fajr. Fajr is the first prayer of the day, for those of you who don't know, or Fajr as they call it. But I feel in these times the fact that he admits he has shortcomings and that he's trying to overcome them is something I really love and value. During my last week in London, I went to a park and I saw another Muslim lady with her child. I was at the park for about 3 hours and something in me told me to talk to that lady. I went to her and asked her to take my picture. We started talking for a long time and she told me the story of how she met her husband. She explained the challenges she went through to be with them and the difficulties people gave her because her husband was a different race and because he didn't have the British passport. During this time, I felt like I might not be with O because he can't enter Palestine origin with Jordanian citizenship. And that would be the reason for my parents to reject him. I felt like her story was relevant. This fear was relevant to this fear. I remember her saying, if you feel deep down in your heart that the person is your husband, never let them go. This is correct. Wake up during the last third of the night and make a lot of dua to Allah. She told me exactly what I needed to hear, and I felt like Allah decreed that we should meet so I could hear this message to not give up. She also told me she had been living in London for 18 years and this was her first time at this park. How beautiful that we were both destined to be at the park at exactly the same time and finally meeting at the 3 hours at the park. Our meeting gave me hopes and I still think about what she told me. Another sign is the fact that I got accepted into that specific university O previously went to. I also got a full paid scholarship even though I didn't fulfill all the requirements to apply. I still decided to apply and it worked, alhamdulillah. The way my scholarship worked was that I had to apply to 5 different universities, which I got accepted to all of them. The scholarship directors then assign you to the first option, which was the specific university. If I hadn't gone to that specific university, I wouldn't have met O because I met him through an Instagram post from the university. 8, how O's visa got accepted right at the perfect time. He visited 3 weeks before my dissertation submission deadline. He helped me with the statistical interpretation and helped me write the code to analyze my results. Allah's timing is always perfect. These are some of the signs I can remember off the top of my head. So, I know this is long-winded, but I feel like she has and I'm going to get to how I feel about the situation, which is very simple, and I hope it gives you some relief. Shifa, whatever you want to call it. So, she says, I feel like my past has prepared me for this moment, and what I am going through right now is all just a test, and I will ultimately be with O. Last year, I remember promising Allah that, oh Allah, if I get accepted to my dream university, I will always believe in dua. and whatever future difficulty I'm destined to go through, I will always trust you and have patience and make dua. I feel like this situation that I am currently in is putting this statement to the test. Maybe this was a test to whether I will continue to make dua and have tawakkul, despite the confusion and not seeing tawakkul as trust. Despite the confusion and not seeing an immediate response. Maybe it was to see whether I would maintain a good relationship with my dad. Sometimes I feel I have resentment towards him because I felt like I couldn't speak up, which I know that that's a big thing in Islamic traditional families. I wish I was raised in a way that I would have a close relationship with my dad. That way I could have told him straight up that O was the was the one I wanted to be with. From this soul situation, I learned to never lie. I've been making dua that, oh Allah, help me to fix the mistake I made lying, and don't allow my dad to get mad at me. Oh Allah, allow the appropriate circumstances to happen that would cause O and I to meet again and cross paths so I can proceed with things without lying and make the marriage process easy for me. I also make constant dua asking Allah to make O rich in his mannerism, religion, and money, and then make him mine. Join us together so we could worship together. That's good, sister. That's good. So, what she's asking, and I'm gonna just paraphrase these questions because I know it's a little bit lengthy here, because this sister is worried. But trust me, I got an answer for you. Hopefully, it helps. She says, "I guess I would like to know." These are her questions for me. What do you think about this whole story? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send signs to those who seek them? Do you think anything was a coincidence? No, I don't. There are no coincidences in this world. After Ramadan, should I talk to O and tell him how I feel, how much he means to me, or just make dua to Allah that we cross paths again without talking to him? I'll get into that. How should my mindset be with proceeding with this situation? I want to be on the same page with O and my dad. I don't want to do anything behind anyone's back. At what point should I give up and accept that something is not meant to be? Did I ruin my chances and ruin my decree and cancel out my istikara because I lied? There's something called a preserved tablet, which I'm pretty sure you're aware of, called Allah al-Mahfuz. How do I reopen this topic with my dad and make him feel involved in this situation without him getting mad at me? I'm afraid if I reopen it in a couple years, he might question why, this stranger in my dad's head is so interested in me after years, even though our interactions were so minimal. I don't want my dad to assume something bad happened between O and I don't want him to find out a lot about how O and I met. I guess my options are that I either come clean. I know you guys are like, this. She's really worried. Come clean and tell him the truth. Met on Instagram, met him behind his back, but I really can't imagine myself doing that. My dad would never trust me again. He might get mad, and I'd be putting my safety at risk. He also won't like O because he'll think he went along with the lie. My other option would be continue to talk to O for a couple months like my dad and I agreed, and then tell my dad I've been talking to O and he checks a lot of boxes. I think there is a potential and he wants to get in contact with you. Whatever option I choose, another problem arises, which is how I meant to get to know him when O can't even enter Palestine due to Israeli occupation. We would have to meet halfway in Jordan. I travel from Palestine to Jordan and him from Dubai to Jordan. I'm willing to move from Canada to Palestine to make it work. Or maybe O can come to a PhD here in Canada and that way we'll be closer. And it'll be easier to get to know him more and convince my dad he's a good person because then I'd be able to see him in real life. Live my life in the moment and forget about him and don't plan anything. Focus on getting a job right now and just trust that Allah will make it work without me doing anything. Get on okay terms with O and make dua he is able to come to do a PhD or Allah brings us together and somehow just make dua and live like that. That is a lot, sister. That is a lot. And I'm smiling because this is interesting, and I know this is long-winded, but I don't care how long this video takes. I just want to do it because I wanted to. I'm doing this for you, and I'm doing this for anybody who's in a similar situation where society, parents, religion, culture, all these things may be affecting your natural affinity towards things. And you have divine legislation, and we have all this human legislation, and we have culture and all these things that stand in the way. What everything that you said just now in reference to, your solutions, they're all good solutions. And in my opinion, they're all, I think you gave me three of them. They're all good solutions that I just read off. My thing is, well, first of all, you're young. You're 23. I don't know how much experience you've had, how many guys have met your father, how many guys you've dated in that mannerism. So, and I don't know if you're just smitten because this is the first guy. Like you said, he met all your requirements, but it's bothering you because it's upon your heart, if that makes any sense. And it's going to stay on your heart because it's going to be that, if you want to say, you can call it shaitan, or you can call it just that desire that's on your heart that keeps saying, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if. And I'm going to get into that. But let's start with the first thing. Before you do anything, this woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff, you ghosted this man, right? So, and when I say ghosted, that means you just completely stopped talking to him. So you have to find out, is he still down for you? Is he still interested in you? Does he still want to be with you? Is there still a connection? Reach out to him to see if there's still a connection. You need to apologize to him for what you did, and I'm pretty sure he'll understand because of the situation, and see if he's still interested at this point, because you ghosted him, and maybe he figured the situation was too complex. So that's the first thing you need to do. In life, I encourage everyone to follow their hearts, but it seems like you have a safety issue from what you mentioned, and I don't want you to put yourself in harm if you feel like it's going to cause you to be harmed in the ways of your father. So, but at the end of the day, you must follow your heart, unless you're just going to suffer from this anxiety and wondering. I would speak with, you can do it either way. If I were you, I would speak with your mother about the situation and kind of soften the blow, and tell your father, if you do want to come clean, and tell your father that you have something to tell him, and you want to be honest with him because it's upon your heart. You prayed, this has been bothering you. And if he's truly a believer, he'll forgive you. How can Allah be all forgiving but your father not be? So that's, if you want to take that route, you would do that. You never know. You never know what he'll say in terms of that. You never know. Or you can just tell your father, you've been conversing with him, like you said earlier, and he's the one. I wouldn't worry about the story afterwards, as far as meeting, because the story's not too far off. Tell him you feel like he's the one, and you're ready to move forward. And have if O wants to do that, have O call your father and have that talk. Plain and simple. I wouldn't worry about the story that comes with, well, they just going to talk about how you guys met. I mean, you never know. Allah would have never placed it on your heart if you weren't supposed to do something about it. But not doing anything about it is just going to keep playing over and over in your head and bothering you. You need to go ahead and put this to bed so that you can move on with your life at the end of the day. You say that you guys hit it off, and and like I said, I don't know what your experience have been with men of the opposite sex. With men. and dating and whatnot. But there's a thing Islamically which you've heard of, which is called the realm of the souls, where we meet people in this life who we feel like we already known or we're comfortable around. And it said, you know, the messenger of God, peace be upon him, said that there's the realm of the souls that we were before we arrived here, and even afterwards. And that's why we have an affinity for certain people. And, you know, you may have heard this, you know, so that may be something that you may be meant to be with him. Who knows? But Allah knows best. There's something that I say in all of my videos about, you know, everything that has struck you was not meant to have missed you. Everything that has missed you was not meant to have come to you. By Ubadah ibn Asamit, you know, may Allah be pleased with him, is one of the great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was telling this to his son Al-Walid, giving his last rites before he died, and he said that, and then he quoted the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said that, you know that amongst the first things that God created was the pen, and that was 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth, which is what you said you saw, that where we were talking about the pens, the video I did on the pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. So just think about that. Omar ibn Khattab, you know, may Allah be pleased with him, he basically said, and it's the context of it I'm trying to get right. He says, what's meant for you will always find its way to you, even if it's under a mountain. And if it's not for you, it won't ever make it to you, even if it's between your teeth. So just put that into perspective. You know, you're meant to be with who you're meant to be with. You'll always find a way, or they'll always find their way to you. And you can be certain about that. So many people rush into things and get upset and afraid and things like that, and anxiety kicks in because they create these narratives. But whoever is meant to be with you, they will always find their way to you. But it's this, we play these games in our mind, like, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? You know, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said, don't say the word if or lo. Don't say lo, because it opens up the doors to the devil, opens up the doors to shaitan, because you're killing yourself about, what if I did this, what if I did this? It makes the devil bigger till he's as big as a home. Instead, we should say, you know, in the name of God, whatever's meant, whatever you have for me, is putting your trust and faith in Allah. And what that does is that basically it's going to empower you and allows you to put your trust in something else, and whatever's meant to happen is supposed to happen. You know, if it's good or bad, in my estimation, you know, God knows best. He knows what's best for me, and I don't. And that's a Quranic verse as well. Omar ibn Khattab, he also said that he doesn't even concern himself with dua. He's just happy that he's granted the success to be able to make dua or pray, because he knows that Allah is going to return back with whatever's best for him. So he doesn't even concern himself with that. He knows that if I was given this ability to pray, I know that God wants to give me something. And we all know the famous hadith of Hadith Qudsi from Allah, where he says your Lord is shy to return to you empty-handed when you ask him for something. So just keep that in mind. Just everything has purpose and meaning. So for you, when you question things, you should not be concerned about these things, because you, as a servant, as a human being, you don't get to decide what the Creator decides. And that's the beauty of all of this. So with that being said, sleep well. Don't worry. Put your faith in Allah. Bring it to your father's attention. whichever one of those options, whether you just want to come out and be truthful or just have the gentleman reach out to your father, tell your father this is the man for me, and have him reach out to your father. But first you have to repair that ghosted relationship. So I hope that this helps out, and I hope that this helps out other people. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry I was so long-winded, but peace be upon you in the mercy and blessings of the Almighty. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe, and all those good things. And if you got any questions, any topics you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to hit me up. I'll catch you guys on the next one, and I'm out of here. Peace.